Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning session, and today I'm going to be talking about the power we have that can actually still the avenger and the enemy.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
But before I begin, I just wanted to say if you like these videos, you can follow me also on Rumble. I post on there, and I also post these videos on Zappit. The reason is that YouTube is playing games with the algorithm, and I know it's because of the information I'm sharing, but you know what? They can't stop this message. So all that I'm going to do is just move to other platforms, and the light will shine for those of us who are receptive. But with that out of the way, I'm just going to jump right into it. And today I'm going to be talking about the Hebrew word Tehillah. Now, Tehillah is one of the words that's translated praise throughout the Hebrew scriptures. There are actually 7 words in Hebrew that are translated as praise in our translations of the Hebrew scriptures. There are more words actually that even mean praise by extension, but those 7 words are all translated praise, and they all mean slightly different things. They're all different aspects of it, but Tehillah is a very special one, and while they're all used very specifically, when Tehillah is used, you know that it's talking about something that's literally leading edge, powerful. And it literally is almost even a combination of all the other words put together. There's one that means bowing, there's one that means singing, there's one that means playing musical instruments, there's one that means raising your hands. All of these combined in an ecstatic utterance. That's what Tehillah is, and it literally just bubbles forth out of your soul. It's derived from the Hebrew root halal, and halal literally means to shine, by extension to be boastful of something. But halal itself is a term that's used for praise when someone's jubilant or, singing and dancing. But Tehillah is more of a ecstatic frenzy of just jubilation. And it's when the words in the song just bubble forth out of your kishkis, your gut. So out of the 7 words that are translated praise, Tehillah is the only one that God actually inhabits. And we read this in the 22nd Tehillah, which is a Psalm of David, where he's crying out to God. We actually read him say, "And you are holy, who inhabits the praises," or Tehillot, of Israel. An example of this spontaneous praise coming out is seen in the 51st Tehillah, where he says, "O Lord, open you my lips, and my mouth shall show forth your praise." Again, Tehillah. He says in the 71st Tehillah, "Let my mouth be filled with your praise and with your honor all the day." So literally this thing just bubbles forth constantly, and you can be doing your work, you can be just doing whatever, and it can come through in unknown languages like light language and even higher languages than that. And sometimes it just comes through as a melody. You just start humming to yourself, but you're really humming to source. And Tehillah, as an inclusion of all the other terms used translated praise, includes the term zamar, which literally means play musical instruments. When you're playing musical instruments, you can be engaged in Tehillah in a freestyle kind of expression as you go along with it. He says in the 34th Tehillah, "I will bless Yahweh at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth." We see this over and over again. It's literally a constant thing that just flows out of your soul, out of your spirit rather, because the soul is just, it ends at that mind, that subconscious mind. Yes, it's a deep level, but it's not all the way into the very life energy that gives rise to our very experience itself. That experience is tied in with the spirit of man, and that spirit is where all this bubbles forth from. It's amazing when you can tap into it. It literally transforms not only your physical life, but your emotional life, your social life, your everything, man. So tap into source through your spirit, not your mind, because meditation can only take you so far. All these physical practices can only take you so far, but the transcendent practices, the real energy that source is, and not that we are, that source is, man, manifests destinies. doesn't just predict destinies, it literally creates destinies. And there are many examples of Tehillim throughout the Hebrew scriptures, and this is an amazing one. I'm just going to read the first 3 verses from the 40th Tehillah. I waited patiently for Yahweh, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. And he has put a new song in my mouth, praise, Tehillah, unto our Elohim. Many shall see it and fear, and shall trust in Yahweh. So we see how this influences others, and how that strength that we're using actually can influence other people's opinions. Now, it's through this power of Tehillah where we can actually conquer and still the avenger. It says in the 8th Tehillah, out of the mouth of babes and sucklings have you ordained strength because of your enemies, that you might still the enemy and the avenger. And when Jesus was quoting this very same passage from the Greek, he used the word praise, because that's where the strength lies. That's actually a fortress that we can run to and not only hide in, but fight out of, and actually still the enemy with this very power. And one of the prime examples of this is the story of Jehoshaphat when he went into battle. Now, they were completely outnumbered and they didn't know what to do, but they consulted Source before they went into battle, and Source says, you won't even need to fight. The battle is not yours, but God's. So after receiving this prophecy, it says, and when he consulted with the people, he appointed singers unto Yahweh, and that they should praise the beauty of holiness as they went out before the army, and to say, praise Yahweh, for his mercy endures forever. So they actually acted as if they already had the answer. And when they began to sing and to praise, Yahweh set ambushments against the children of Ammon, Moab, and Seir, which were come against Judah, and they were smitten. For the children of Ammon and Moab stood up against the inhabitants of Mount Seir, utterly to slay and destroy them. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, every one helped to destroy another. And when Judah came toward the watchtower in the wilderness, they looked unto the multitude, and behold, there were dead bodies fallen to the earth, and none escaped. This is the miraculous power that, living in the end, embodying that form of gratitude and praise to divine source, actually allows us to experience. Paul even writes in his epistle to the church at Philippi, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Another example from the Greek scriptures is when Paul and Silas actually confronted spirits of divination, and then because they ended up freeing one of these girls from that lifestyle, she used divination and her masters made a lot of money off of that. Once she was set free, it says, and the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrate rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely, who, having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison and made their feet fast in the stocks. And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God. Again, those Tehillim. And the prisoners heard them. So they were doing this out loud, mind you. It wasn't like an under their breath kind of thing. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken. And immediately all the doors were opened and everyone's bands were loosed. Not just Paul and Silas's, but everyone in the prison had their bands loosed. And another prime example of this comes from the story of the crossing of the Red Sea. When the children of Israel came up to the Red Sea, it looked like there was no escape. You know, there was Pharaoh's army on one side behind them, the wilderness on the other side behind them, and the Red Sea right in front of them. They were cornered from 3 angles. They couldn't go anywhere. It looked like it was over. But Moses raised out his staff, and an utterance came through that he just led the people in singing. And the thing is that wind was blowing so strong, and it blew all night. That wind was blowing all night, and it was strong enough to part the sea. It says, and Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahweh caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. So that wind was blowing so loud, like they couldn't even hear each other. Nobody could lead the congregation in any sort of song or Hallel praise. But when you read the next chapter, it says, Moses and the children of Israel sang this song unto Yahweh, and spoke, saying, I will sing unto Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider has he thrown into the sea. In verse 11 of this song, it says, Who is like you, Yahweh, among the Elohim? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises? There's that word tehillot again, doing wonders. And there's an amazing song in the oracles of Ḥabaquq where he actually describes what happened at the Red Sea. This is an amazing oracle. It's one of my favorite oracles, and it's written in the style of a wild, enthusiastic, and triumphal music, literally just raving and ranting, like horns and sackbuts blaring and reed pipes going off and all these harps and zithers and everything. It was all involved in this kind of music. And the term for this kind of music is called shiganot. That's a whole other topic for a whole other episode. But it says in the 3rd verse of the 3rd chapter of Ḥabaquq, Elohim came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Selah. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. Again, the word tehillah. And it was so powerful that that word glory is the Hebrew word hod, which literally means the imposing image of it. So you could literally see an image in the skies of this divine being. It goes on and it says, and brightness was as the light. He had horns out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. Like, this is an amazing oracle. I'm probably going to do an episode just on this one by itself. But we read further on in it, it says, was Yahweh displeased against the rivers? Was your anger against the rivers? Was your wrath against the sea, that you didst ride upon your horses and your chariots of salvation? So these are examples of when divine source embodied in that cyclical justice. In the Hebrew, that term is Yahweh. That comes to rescue those who live in the end, who experience the end from the beginning, even though the circumstances might not look like they're unfolding the way we like them to. We can still live in that end as if we have the end result already. And when we do that, source will line things up. We don't have to worry about how to line up all these dominoes and connect the dots. Source will take care of that. And before you know it, we'll actually be living out the process to get to that end. And we'll see that end unfold like turning the corner. We won't even see it coming because we'll already have embodied that state of being as if it's already done. And then one day it will just be like poof right in front of us, and we'll be like, whoa, where did that come from? So keep with it, guys. Don't get discouraged and stay optimistic. Plug into source, because that's where this true power lies. Our own selves, our own egos, we can think positive thoughts. We can look at the better side of situations and just keep optimistic that way. But when source is optimistic inside of you, guys, there's no parallel in this physical world for that kind of vision. So plug in and manifest that vision. Manifest your best life yet. Manifest the utopia that you've come here to create, because you were born for such a time as this. The obstacles and the hardships are just sandpaper to polish you and turn you into that lustrous diamond. That's what we're here for. We're agents in place for the kingdom of heaven. So let's bring heaven to this earth and literally influence society in a way that has never been done before. So I love you guys. I'll check you in the next reasoning sesh. Joel signing out once again. Agape. Salaam. Namaste. Shalom. So after